What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Black Apino, the tech guy here. Today I thought I would answer a question that I usually often get asked a lot at work, and that is why I switched from GoPro to the DJI Osmo mic. So for those of you that are new to my channel, I have been using GoPros for pretty much almost 9 years. I've had everything from the Hero 4. So if you hear a lot of the noise, it just snowed last night here in Alaska, so it's kind of in that in between spring slash kind of winter-ish thing. So back to what I was saying. I've had everything from the GoPro Hero 4 to Session 4 to the 5 Session, 5 Black, 6 Black, 7 Black, all the way up until the 9. And then I switched from that to the Insta360s. And then I literally went from the Insta360s to the DJI Osmos. Now, I'm not going to get too much into why I switched from the Insta360s to the DJI, because it's pretty much going to be the same reason as the GoPro. So I've been using GoPros, like I said, for a while, and they're great action cameras. Now, there's nothing wrong with GoPros in the sense of they all function the same way. They're all designed to do one thing, which is take videos, pictures. If you do a lot of action stuff, no matter what it is, whether it's football or racing or biking or something, that's what they're designed to do. Now, over the years, when it came to GoPros, I've learned that every time they came out with a new one, they would tend to leave the app behind. So pretty much all action cameras, no matter what brand you buy, they all pretty much are designed to be used with the app. You can't use them single-handedly if you want to, but if you're doing any type of sports stuff, it tends to make it a little bit more difficult when it comes to trying to actually stop the recording while you're riding on something or doing something. So the app is pretty much kind of what you use with the action cameras. Now for the GoPros, they seem to, and I don't know if most people talk about this in the reviews when it comes to GoPros, but when it comes to the app integration between the GoPro versus, say, the Insta360 and the DJI, it, for all intended purposes, it just sucks. It just unresponsive sometimes. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes the app just sticks and it doesn't work. So you have to force close the app, and then you have to reinitialize the app just to get any functionality out of it. And you probably won't notice this at first when you're using, or if you've had GoPros before, and you probably have never experienced, or you every once in a while. But that's one of the reasons as to why I don't like the GoPros, is the app integration on it just isn't as good as you just simply just physically taking the action camera and then just doing all the settings on your own without needing the app. With the Insta360 and the DJI, don't have that issue at all. The app just works. And another thing I've also learned over the time when it came to using GoPro versus using the Osmo is there's latency issues. Now, most people probably will never notice it because they're not either doing the same thing as what I'm doing, or they just probably never notice it. But when you were able to use live preview with GoPros, I noticed that any type of hand movements, even if you watched yourself speaking, you would notice that there was somewhat of a sort of delay. And with every new update when it came to the app, you'd assume that there would be some sort of a latency issue fix for that. And I've learned, like I said, throughout the GoPros that I've used, that that really wasn't the case. I mean, it would improve a little, but it wouldn't be the same as when I used the DJI or if I used Insta360 when it came to live previews. So basically what live previews means is that you can basically take your action camera and you can kind of basically turn it into like a live recording. Basically, you can record yourself and see what you look like in the camera. Now, typically, you don't have to worry about doing this with, say, the Hero 9 and the and above, because those all have front-facing cameras. So you don't really have to worry about that as much. And so with, like, say, the 7, the 8, or older versions, when it came to live previews, you didn't really get that, so you simply was use the app to do that. And that was something I noticed when I have the 6 and the 7. It just really sucked at live previewing. It would always give me some sort of a delay. And at first I thought it was just something that I was doing wrong. But then when I realized it was actually the app, when it came to that, that's what made it very difficult. And that's one of the reasons why I switched from the GoPro to pretty much any other action camera, because the latency issue was just really getting on my nerves when it came to recording. And then also now we come to colors. So this really depends on the person who's using the action camera, if they're trying to use it in a vlogging sense like what I'm using now. So when it comes to colors, I noticed the colors on the GoPro versus the Insta360 when I had that at the time, that they weren't as good as the Insta360. There really wasn't any type of D-Log or LUTs or anything that you can get now on the newer GoPros. It just wasn't that available. So when it came to color grading, if you wanted to color grading it, it was a little hard to do it unless you were really good at color grading, which I was not at the time. So with the DJI, you do get LUTs with it, and you also get actually something that actually comes embedded in the camera known as D-Log, which is basically just a LUT, but for the action camera itself. And I've noticed that when you enable it on the DJI, the colors look really good. Now, I'm not saying that they look terrible with them off, but with D-Log, it does give you the ability to kind of color grade a little bit, whereas you don't get that with the GoPro. Then after that, there's also the battery life. Now, the battery life on GoPros and on action cameras in general is perfectly fine, but usually I learned that when I'm shooting in like 4K or if I was shooting in 1080, I didn't get as much battery life as it says I was supposed to get. So say it would give me, like, say 118 minutes or like, you know, a couple of hours, I probably would get maybe half a day's of video. So if I wanted to go like a full day and shooting just 4K, even at just 24 frames, usually the battery life would not last as long. Then there's the overheating issues. Now, it's not as prevalent on the newer GoPros, but like I said before, when I had the 7 and the 6 and the 5, overheating was an issue. It would overheat. Even if I just was shooting at 1080 for long periods of time, it would tend to overheat. On the 9, it wasn't as much as people thought it was. At least to me, I never really got a lot of overheating on it, but nonetheless, there was overheating. I don't really get it as much on the DJI Osmo. Even when I'm shooting just normally, I don't really get the overheating. So that was something that was also another kind of a pain in the butt, is that it would overheat. Now, I never had an issue with it like actually just shutting down on me because it overheated, but it was something that was there. And then the last and final reason is accessories. So action cameras, you can buy tons of accessories for any of them, whether it's, again, the DJI, the Insta360, or for the GoPro. The issue I had with the GoPro, as opposed to when I had the Insta360 and even with the Osmo, is that if I want to use an external mic, I either had to buy pretty much their own media mod, which was perfectly fine. The media mod was a nice little touch, but it was like $80 for that, which is crazy. And if you bought if you bought just like a simple like small rig cage or a cage that was designed for the GoPro, it was perfectly fine. But when it came to accessories for the GoPro, they either were hard to get or they were just astronomically expensive for something that really shouldn't have costed that much in the first place. Even when it came to just straight out of the box, it didn't really come with much of anything at all. It just came with a GoPro, and you came with like the nice little accessories you could screw into it. But it really the accessories for the GoPro just seemed to be kind of a bit excessively expensive. And I don't mean by expensive by no means in terms of like, $100 some odd dollars, but it was really expensive for a lot of these, GoPro only parts that you could get pretty much third party hand, pretty much off of anybody. So that was just an issue I had as well. Otherwise, again, I'm not knocking GoPro. There's nothing wrong with GoPros. I think GoPros are amazing cameras, but I think that they get a little bit too hyped for what they are. As I said before, the number one thing you'll have an issue with generally will be the color. A lot of people will talk about how the color is not as good on the GoPro as it is with any other action camera. And again, that depends on what you're using the GoPro for. If you're using it like in a vlogging setting, then it's perfectly fine. But if you want to color grade, you're better off either going with the Insta360 or with the Osmo Action, because they have their own LUTs basically inside of the action camera. Now, price-wise, they can vary depending on price. Now, when it comes to like the lower models, when a new one comes out, they don't really put the older ones on sale. At least nothing that's really significant at least until for another couple of months. So with the 11 out, with the 12 out, the 11 is still slightly cheaper, but it's not that much cheaper than you buying either the 10 or the 9, because they're still going to be around the same price, give or take, than the 11. So you're not really saving much when it comes to that, as opposed to like buying the Action 4, which you just simply just get the standalone, which is what I have, for around $300. Pretty much gives you everything that you need. And if you need to buy like some simple mount for it, again, you can do that. Another cool thing when it comes to the Action 4 versus the GoPros, you can shoot in vertical content, which basically means you can basically just take your action camera, flip it into a 4x3, and you can shoot it for content such as like say Instagram or anything of that nature. It's actually really cool, and I don't know why GoPro didn't really allow this for something on even on their 9. This was something they could have really used on the 9, the 10, and the 11, even the 12. Otherwise, just straight out of the box, you don't really get that. It's something you kind of have to actually either buy another case for and then do it that way. But the case for the Action 4, straight out of the box, allows you to do that without having to buy any extra stuff. So you don't even really need any extra audio gear or anything like that. You just 4x3, poof, there you go. There's just a lot of things that you can do with the GoPro, with the DJI, that you can't really do with the GoPro. And like I said, I'm not knocking the GoPro. I've had them for quite a while, but it's just, I find that the GoPro is just much easier, has better colors, has a lot more functionality to it than you get with the GoPro. So I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please give me a thumbs up. And again, these are my own opinions using the GoPros myself. Say this with a grain of salt, but if you are looking at getting a GoPro, just kind of do your research on it, just so you can, kind of decide for yourself if it's something you want or just jump in with something else. So I want to thank everybody for watching. And again, if you're new to my channel, my name is Black the Tech Guy. If this video was helpful, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Enjoy.